How did a machine with four wheels reshape an entire nation? Not just how Americans traveled, but where they lived, how they worked, how cities expanded, how industries were built, how power was measured. At the dawn of the 20th century, the United States was still a country of horses, railroads, and tightly packed towns. Most people lived within walking distance of work. Travel beyond your county was rare. Rural isolation was normal. Infrastructure was limited and uneven. The automobile was not yet a necessity. It was noisy, fragile, expensive, a mechanical experiment. And yet, within a few decades, that experiment would stretch America outward, elevate Detroit into an industrial capital, and give the country a manufacturing advantage unlike anything the world had seen before. The rise of the American car industry wasn't inevitable. It was engineered, it was scaled, and above all, it was organized. In 1896, Henry Ford assembled a gasoline-powered vehicle known as the quadricycle. It was simple, skeletal, and far from perfect, but it moved without a horse. That alone represented a shift in possibility. Ford wasn't alone. Ransom Olds had begun experimenting with production methods. Buick was refining engine reliability. Small automotive workshops appeared across the Midwest. But cars were still novelties for the wealthy. They were unreliable luxuries. Ford believed that was the wrong direction. He didn't want to build a car for the elite. He wanted to build a car for workers, for farmers, laborers, and families. In 1908, the Ford Motor Company introduced the Model T. The Model T wasn't glamorous. It wasn't delicate. It was durable, simple, and designed for rough terrain. It could handle unpaved roads and inconsistent fuel quality. It was engineered for America as it existed, not America as it aspired to be. But the real revolution wasn't just the vehicle, it was the method. In 1913, Ford introduced the moving assembly line at the Highland Park plant. Instead of craftsmen building entire cars from start to finish, the vehicle moved through stations. Workers performed specific, repeated tasks. The impact was dramatic. Production time dropped from more than 12 hours per vehicle to roughly 90 minutes. Costs fell sharply, efficiency soared. In 1908, a Model T cost around $850. By the mid-1920s, the price fell below $300. For the first time, large numbers of working-class Americans could afford a car. By 1927, more than 15 million Model Ts had been produced. That wasn't just market success. That was geographic transformation. The automobile made distance affordable. Farmers could bring crops to market faster. Families could move beyond dense city centers. Workers could commute from newly developing suburbs. Businesses could reach customers across wider territories. America began stretching outward. And as America stretched, demand for roads grew. Dirt paths turned into paved highways. Gas stations multiplied. Repair shops appeared in small towns. The auto industry began linking with steel producers, rubber manufacturers, glass companies, oil refiners, and construction firms. The car was no longer just a machine. It was an ecosystem, and Detroit was becoming its center. While Ford focused on efficiency and uniformity, General Motors approached the market differently. Under the leadership of Alfred P. Sloan in the 1920s, GM introduced a strategy built on segmentation. Instead of one universal vehicle, GM offered a range. Chevrolet for entry-level buyers, Pontiac and Oldsmobile for those moving upward, Buick for refinement, Cadillac for prestige. Customers could rise in income and status without leaving the company's brand structure. It was a subtle but powerful strategy. Ford optimized production. GM optimized aspiration. By the late 1920s, Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler dominated the American market. These companies became known as the Big Three. Their factories expanded across Michigan and into neighboring states. Supply chains deepened. Labor forces swelled. The automobile industry didn't just produce vehicles, it produced wages. It created skilled jobs in machining, engineering, logistics, and design. It stimulated housing development, retail growth, and infrastructure investment. In many ways, it built the American middle class. Then the Great Depression struck in 1929. Auto sales fell sharply, factories slowed, unemployment surged. Yet even during economic hardship, the automobile remained central to American life. When recovery began in the late 1930s, car production surged again. Then came World War II. In 1941, after the United States entered the war, Detroit's automotive plants converted from civilian production to military manufacturing. Assembly lines that once built sedans now produce tanks, aircraft engines, and military vehicles. Ford's Willow Run plant became famous for producing B-24 bombers at unprecedented speed. The same mass production logic that democratized mobility now powered wartime logistics. The car industry proved it could mobilize not just consumers, but a nation. When the war ended in 1945, pent-up consumer demand exploded. Soldiers returned home, families expanded, the economy surged, and Americans wanted cars. The late 1940s and 1950s became the golden age of American automotive design. Vehicles grew larger, more powerful, more expressive. Chrome gleamed. Tail fins rose dramatically. Wraparound windshields and bold colors defined an era. Cars weren't just transportation, they were statements. The Interstate Highway Act of 1956 accelerated this transformation. It funded the construction of a vast network of highways connecting cities, states, and regions. Suburbs expanded rapidly. Shopping centers and drive-in theaters flourished. Motels lined newly paved roads. The automobile became essential infrastructure. Without it, modern suburban life would not function. The American car industry did not simply respond to this change. It amplified it. Engines evolved. The small block V8 became a symbol of American engineering. Compact, powerful, and adaptable. Performance improved. Comfort increased. Automatic transmissions made driving easier. Exports expanded. American cars appeared in Europe, Latin America, and parts of Asia. Their size and bold styling contrasted sharply with smaller European models. For a time, Detroit set the global standard. By the 1960s, performance culture intensified. The Ford Mustang launched in 1964 and sold over 400,000 units in its first year. Chevrolet responded with the Camaro. Pontiac introduced the GTO. Horsepower wars defined the decade. These cars became icons of youth identity and cultural rebellion. But beneath the surface, structural challenges were forming. Fuel efficiency had not been prioritized. Safety concerns increased. Regulatory scrutiny grew stronger. Then, in 1973, the OPEC oil embargo disrupted global fuel supply. Gasoline prices rose sharply. Long lines formed at stations. Large engines suddenly seemed inefficient. At the same time, Japanese automakers like Toyota and Honda gained traction in the United States. Their vehicles were smaller, more fuel efficient, and increasingly reliable. For the first time, Detroit faced sustained global competition. The American car industry adapted, but not instantly. Emission standards and corporate average fuel economy regulations forced design changes. Production strategies shifted. Quality control systems improved in response to foreign competition. The industry that once defined scale had to learn precision. Through the 1980s and 1990s, American automakers modernized manufacturing with robotics and computer-controlled systems. Safety innovations like airbags and anti-lock brakes became standard. Global partnerships formed. Production facilities expanded beyond traditional Midwestern hubs, but the geography of power shifted. Some factories closed, others opened in new regions. The industry remained strong, but its dominance was no longer automatic. In the early 2000s, trucks and sport utility vehicles became profit centers. The Ford F-150 became one of the best-selling vehicles in America. Scale returned to prominence, but with it came renewed concerns about fuel consumption and environmental impact. Then, a new transformation began. Electrification. Battery technology improved. Electric drivetrains became viable alternatives to internal combustion engines. Companies like Tesla disrupted traditional production models by prioritizing software integration and direct sales. Legacy automakers responded. Ford introduced electric variants like the Mustang Mach-E and the F-150 Lightning. General Motors invested heavily in battery platforms. The same industry that once perfected the assembly line now competes in software, battery chemistry, and autonomous systems. The rise of the American car industry was never a single event. It was a series of accelerations, from the quadricycle to the Model T, from mass production to global export, from tail fins to muscle cars, from oil shocks to electrification. Detroit conquered the world not because it was flawless, but because it understood scale. It mastered manufacturing speed. It aligned infrastructure with industry. It turned aspiration into branding. It linked steel, rubber, oil, labor, and design into one coordinated machine. For decades, the automobile defined American economic strength. It reshaped cities. It enabled suburban life. It built highways. It generated millions of jobs. It projected industrial confidence across the globe. Today, the landscape is more complex. Competition is global. Technology cycles are faster. Environmental pressures are stronger. And yet the lesson remains. Industries rise when innovation meets scale. The American car industry rose because it achieved both. The question now is not whether it once conquered the world. It did. The real question is whether it can lead again in the next revolution. Because history suggests one thing. In the automotive world, power belongs to those who build the future fastest, and the road ahead is still being written.